Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Mazurkowitz, president of BJM Consulting, here to talk to you about the initial financial feasibility study we did as we look forward in further and deeper into the possibility of incorporating Perdido. First, a little bit about myself. In 1983, I was elected mayor of the city of Cape Coral, served for 10 years, 4 terms, and in 1994, after leaving office, I started BJM Consulting, and I've been doing that ever since. Part of the work we do with BJM Consulting is feasibility studies. And we have in excess of 30 feasibility studies done, with 5 of them becoming cities. My educational background: I attended the University of Florida, was an engineering student, graduated from Barry University in Miami, Central Michigan University with a master's degree, and Stanford Hills in London with a PhD, all in public administration and public policy. Specifically, your report and the goal of phase 1 of the study is to take a snapshot to make sure that you have the financial wherewithal to support a government-like concept. A government-like concept is not really creating a whole new government entity. It's a very small organization that contracts with the existing providers to continue to provide service to the area without developing a whole nother layer of bureaucracy. These studies are actually looking at revenue that is presently being collected predominantly by the county and will transfer to the new city of Perdido if you were to incorporate. These type of revenues is Florida state shared revenue, monies that are collected by the state of Florida and shared with cities and counties. It's franchise fees, which are presently being collected, and communication service tax and occupational licenses. All these fees are presently being collected by the county and were moved to the city of Perdido. What we try to look at is establishing this government-like concept is very few employees. We start off with no more than 5 employees, and they would pretty much administer contracts. The contractual relationship would be with the local government. It could be with a private provider. It could be with anyone that your newly elected city government would choose to do so. So what we look at in this initial report is we get the values of those dollars that are going to be transferred, and we establish some reasonable expectations of salaries and costs of governance, and then we put that together and we take a quick look to see if the revenues will meet or exceed the additional expenditures. As we go further in this study, we will have the opportunity to flush out a pretty comprehensive budget for general fund for your new community when we do the final report. So the initial findings and what we have, it looks like the revenues are going to be coming in with enough to support the local government, the bare bones or government-like concept, and start developing a little bit of a reserve. When we do the final report, we will show 5 years of budgeting. And we will show at the end of those 5 years how much reserve you have built. There's 2 other things I would like to explain to you about the report. Number 1, this report takes no position on incorporation. We draw no conclusions and make no recommendations. All we do is lay out the facts, the good, the bad, whatever. We lay them all out for you. And we use sources, government sources, Escambia County budget documents, State of Florida Department of Revenue documents to determine what these revenues are going to be. So I'm very confident that, matter of fact, of the 5 communities that have incorporated, 4 of them have come in under budget for my expenditures and exceeded my budget for revenues collected. So it's a very conservative formula and budget presentation that we use. The existing revenue sources, I think, is it's the state of Florida, which I've already talked about. The county collected them. Those will now go to the new city. The results of all of this is that it looks like we're going to have enough money to pay for the government. It looks like as we go through in the next phase, what we're going to do is do a SWOT analysis where we look at the strengths and weaknesses of Perdido as it is today, and the opportunities and threats as you would look forward, going forward, in becoming a city. We lay all them out, and what we look for are two things. We're looking for unfunded mandates, things that exist there today that if it were to need to be fixed, it would become the responsibility of the new local government. So we'll be looking for unfunded mandates and trying to ascertain the economic impact of those. And then we're going to be looking for things I like to call silver bullets, things that only the community will understand are a hindrance to incorporation. They can be anything from not having enough people willing to serve in local government to concerned about what the local government will do to you or do for you. There is a concept really that comes out in most of these SWOT analysis called government creep, where government light starts out with a few employees, but then because elected officials see their constituents on a day-to-day basis, because you're all local, people will be asking for more services, and the more services could cost more money. So those will all be identified as we go into the next phase of the study. That next phase of the study should be done by June, the first week of June. And then if that we find no silver bullets or we don't find no very large unfunded mandates, we will then go into the final phase, which is to complete the study to submit to the state of Florida House of Representatives for their review. If you were to incorporate and you were, this process is a very long process with plenty of opportunity for debate as you go forward. The initial debate would be when the local bill is presented at the local delegation meeting, probably sometime this coming fall. That bill would have to have a public hearing at the local delegation meeting and then be voted on by your local delegation members. If it passes there, it goes on to the full Florida House of Representatives and the Florida Senate. It goes through committees at both bodies before it gets to the floor of both bodies. If it's passed all the way through committees and on the floor of both bodies, it comes to the governor. And when it goes to the governor can either sign it, let it become law by itself, or veto it. So all of that has to happen before the end of session, or towards the end of session of this next year. That would put us into probably July, August of next year, where you'll be publicly debating. You'll have a full charter to debate. You'll have a full feasibility study to question and use. And you can make a determination to when the election comes up in the following November. You'll have a couple months to debate before the election comes up in November. If you get to the election in November, you can then, you would be, and it was passed, you would become a city December 31st, so just before midnight of that year. And that's on purpose because you need to exist as an entity the prior year to collect revenue in the next year. So that would be, and so you have your elections the following year for your local council members. And then you would probably have your first meeting around April, 2 years from now. That is really the background of where we are in the process right now. Initially, it looks like we have enough revenues to cover the startup government. We will be refining this as we go forward and sharing every single number with you when we get to the final study. Hopefully, I'll be up there in Perdido to make presentations to you for the final study where we can interact and and actually sit there and answer your questions for as many questions as you have. I look forward to seeing you up there and wishing you good luck in your efforts as you go forward to incorporate. Thank you.